Dr. Lee, I strongly suggest you leave quickly.
She kind of like looks back and forth, and she goes to run, and one of the Calamabots um, the Calamabots are fairly generic, kind of like robotic minions. They've got
Yeah.
they've got like big shoulder plates with like rivets in them, and slightly spindly arms that are nonetheless very strong because they're made of metal. And what all of them are equipped with kind of the same equipment. You'd be fairly familiar with it. They can do like a jolt, an electrical jolt, like sort of like a taser type effect. They can. They've got sort of like a three-dimensional like sense. So like once you get within a certain radius, they can it's really difficult to sneak up on them. And they also have this like kind of directed strobe light effect that they use to blind organic enemies. And that goes off, and she kind of like kind of yells and like kind of covers her eyes and stumbles a bit.
Um, yeah, this is. I think this is probably the first time Compiler has been face to face with Calamabots since it left. So this is. It knew that this might be a possibility when it started investigating, but it's still panicking a little bit here. So it's a very stressful situation.
Definitely.
Seeing a bystander, quote unquote, bystander injured, I think, is enough to really put it into motion. So it's not really experienced. It doesn't know what it's doing. I think it's just going to charge in and try to tackle these things physically. That's not going to go well, but
Okay. Um, so yeah, one of them looks like it's kind of focused on you. The other one is clearly intent on retrieving Dr. Lee. Climate don't speak. You could theoretically communicate with them via like your computer link if you wanted to, but you'd have to pin it down and
yeah.
take the time to do that. So in order to tackle this thing, well, first off, I'm going to draw a card, and this is the aura card, or the narrator card for the turn. Structural collapse, interesting. So it is a Doom card. That's not going to trigger anything for me because it's played as a narrator card, not from your hand. But that value of 6 is basically going to make everything a little bit more difficult for you. That's going to be added to whatever they try to do.
Okay.
So the way combat works is generally the person with the lowest intellect declares first, and then the people with the higher intellects declare in order to basically be able to react to what that person is doing. As I mentioned, one of the Calamabots is looks like he's trying to go and like grab Dr. Lee. The other one is kind of facing off against you to try to like stop you from interfering.
Makes sense.
He is actually going to raise one arm, and you start to see like the little bit of like electrical like kind of arcing across it as it charges up its energy blast at you.
Okay. Interesting.
So what would Compiler like to do?
Well, I think Compiler's priority right now is to get Dr. Lee out of here. It doesn't know. I don't think it's ever been shot by a Calamabot before, so it doesn't know whether it can tank this or not. But it figures that it'll do a better job than a person made of meat would. So I think it's just gonna bull rush the one that's trying to grab the doctor and try to essentially knock it over, get it on the ground long enough for her to escape.
Okay. So go ahead and resolve that action first. That's going to be a strength action. You don't have any skills to, effectively modify that. So it's just going to be straight strength.
Okay, there is something else that we should probably talk about, because Compiler may be big and relatively strong, but it also has the inaccurate property, so I need to
Oh,
deal with that.
inaccurate. Let's see here. And that is in this book right here. the Reed Richards Guide to Everything, which is the Marvel Saga supplemental rules that came out after the core set. This is going to be under Hindrances Redux, which is going to be right there. Inaccurate. Your hero cannot aim, at least not well. When attacking, you cannot play cards until after your hero has succeeded in an attack. Thus, card play is treated like a variable damage bonus, but does not count towards generating the action score. Okay. Yeah, so basically, instead of playing a card to determine if you succeed at the action, you have to just go based off your strength, your straight stat, whatever it is you're using to attack with, which in this case is strength. Now, luckily, Compiler does have a 10 strength, so, that's pretty good. The question is, do the Calamibots have a higher agility than that? So, yeah, actually, the Calamibots have a 5 agility, but plus that 6 for the narrator card gives them an 11. They don't have any skills to modify dodging out of the way, but you don't have any skills to modify tackling them, so that kind of cancels itself out. So yeah, you go to tackle the thing, and it kind of pauses its momentum just enough that it's able to shove you kind of to the ground as you go to tackle it, and it moves to kind of step over you. I do need you to give me a dodge action though to dodge out of the way of this electrical blast, because you're kind of dodging as you go to tackle, so it's a simultaneous thing.
Yeah. So dodge would be agility, I guess.
Correct. And you can always play the 1 as an edge card if you would like.
For the moment, I think I'm just going to drop this 5 on it.
Okay.
That'll give me an 11 there.
And that's that's an agility card for an agility action, so you get a boost. You go and draw the top card of the deck and play that as well.
And that'll bump that to a 13.
A 13. Okay, so these guys have... And they actually do have the skill for that, so that's going to make it a little bit harder. So that is a 9 and a 6 is a 15. Okay, so the blast of electricity kind of crackles and a little lightning bolt basically leaps at you. It does actually hit you, which means you are going to take... What did I say? It was a total of 15. You're going to take... I'll go ahead and draw your card back for having played that. You're going to take 15 points of damage minus your defense, which is, for you, your strength score. So you're going to take 5 points of damage.
Goodness.
So what you're going to do is you're going to take... You need to discard 5 points worth of cards from your hand.
Okay.
5 or more.
Well, I only have one combination that can do that, so...
Yep. That is unfortunate that you had some low cards when you took that damage. Leaves you kind of in a rough spot. So, the blast of electricity hits you as the guy kind of shoves you to the ground. You don't have muscles, but some of your circuits kind of fry out and kind of scrambles that faceplate display for a second, and it knocks you on your ass for sure. So we're going to go into the next round, and I'm going to draw another narrator card. Okay, so that is actually good for you. I should zoom in a little so people can see these cards better. I did not realize that was so... There we go. There, we'll do it that way. So, every card has a value, a suit, and an aura. The aura, in this case, is positive. So, during combat, when the narrator card is a positive aura, the heroes heal. So you get to draw a card and put it back in your hand. If it's a negative aura, the villains heal. If it's neutral, nothing happens unless you have the regeneration power. So yeah, okay. So a 7 of strength, that'll probably help you out, depending on what you want to do on this turn. So the one that's going for Dr. Lee is going to basically grab her and try to take off with her. The other one is going to try to see to it that you don't get back up, at least not in the immediacy.
Makes sense. Hmm. So I guess this is a thing that I should ask about.
Mm-hmm.
Transmutation powers. So
Yes.
the main ability compiler has is to just rearrange matter and turn it into different stuff, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But it's limited to objects only. Does a robot count as an object?
Yes.
Are these guys sentient?
They're not sentient, so yes, they count as objects.
Okay, cool. In that case, Tyler is still panicking. It doesn't really know what it's doing. It's just been shot. The doctor's been grabbed. And I think this is maybe the first time it's used its power in a real fight, but it's just going to reach out and it'll try to turn the robot that has grabbed the doctor into a jetpack.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
The idea is that she'd still be flying away, just not under its control.
So that is going to require an intellect action based on your alchemy.
Okay,
So,
makes sense.
and so you're doing transmutation. So I want to say that's is that resisted by strength? That would make sense to me. Transmutation. Let's see.
Yeah.
Opposed by the object's material strength or the creature's willpower. I think in this case, because it's an object, it would be its strength score.
Okay,
So it's
makes
resisted
sense.
by strength. Now the question is, do you have any skills that help you with this? Bionics, chemistry, computer, electronics, linguistics, mechanics, physics, robotics. Yeah, I'd say between electronics and mechanics, you can probably make, and physics, you can probably make that work. So yeah, okay. We'll count you as having an appropriate skill for doing this, so that will reduce the difficulty slightly. I need an intellect action from you, please.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and use this edge, because I need it right now.
Yep.
And it's the only other card I've got, so...
All right. So that is an 18, because your alchemy power that gives you transmutation is a 10, plus the 8 is an 18. That's going to be resisted by their strength, plus the narrator card. Yeah, you, you're kind of like underneath it, like it stepped over you and like kind of reached forward to grab her. You're able to basically slap one of your hands on its foot, and there's like kind of this like grinding kind of metal sound and like rivets popping and some like electrical shorts that are kind of like fizzing and popping, and then the thing kind of like sort of transformer like it reconfigures itself into a jetpack. And it kind of like clangs on the ground. So, theoretically, the doctor can use that to get away if she wants to.
If she wants, yeah.
Yeah. Would she want to? Technically, it grabbed her. So maybe is she wearing the jetpack?
That was kind of what I had in mind when
You
you
know
said
what?
it grabbed her, but it doesn't have to be.
The event on this is redemption, so we're going to say that this is a little bit of redemption for the first round going so poorly for you, and so so it does end up like on her. I'll go ahead and discard those two cards if you want to redraw the two for the ones you played. Oh, there we go. The Impossible Man. And Wolfsbane. Okay, so a 5 of intellect, a 2 of agility. 5 of intellect is not a bad thing for you.
Not at all.
So you're going to do that. The other one is going to basically try and zap you again. So I will need another agility action as you kind of like push yourself up to your feet, and he goes to blast you. He's staying kind of at a distance.
Right. Well,
So
since I just drew that agility card, I'll go ahead and throw that and hope that the pull is better.
fingers crossed.
Maybe not.
Ooh, another card for me.
That is an 11 on my end.
An 11 on your end. Okay, so that is going to be... Ooh, ouch. So a 9 plus... Ouch. Yeah. I don't think there's really any getting around that. So 14... You're only going to take 14 points of damage, minus the 10 strength is going to be 4.
Okay.
Go ahead and draw the card back for what you played for the dodge.
Ready?
So 4 points of damage. You'll need to discard one of those 2 cards. You can decide which.
I think I'll go ahead and discard the 6.
Okay. So, I'm going to play 2 of the cards that I've drawn for those Dune cards. The first one is going to be Energy Flux, is going to be the event there. So as the Calamity Bot zaps you with its electrical blast, the energy that electricity kind of arcs to the jetpack, and so it kind of like powers up. Like you can hear it like some lights, some light indicator lights turn on and things like that, and you can hear it as it starts to like spin up. The other one that I'm going to do is Setback is the event. So you hear through the vocal, or so like through the speaker on the Calamibots, because they can't speak themselves, but Professor Calamitous can speak through them. And he says, what does Professor Calamitous sound like? I think, did we talk about this? Like, Professor Calamitous is a relatively young guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I would say so.
He's not like an
Like
old,
late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So he's not like an old guy scientist. He's
I think
relatively
it tends
young.
to be a little melodramatic, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you hear his voice kind of through the kind of crackly speaker, and he's always had a love for that. Like, again, kind of that analog technology as well. Certain classics. Although he does appreciate the refined nature of more modern technology. So there's a little bit of scratchiness to the speaker as he speaks through it. And he says, "Ah, compiler. I thought you'd been reduced to a mere bucket of bolts by now, but it would seem that is not the case. I almost would say that you're working for me. You've made it so easy to recall the good doctor to my lair. Thank you for that." And as the jetpack fully kind of charges up and kind of fires, Dr. Lee is kind of like rubbing her eyes, and she says, "What's happened?" As the thing, poof, she screams, "Ah!" as it like lifts her into the air. So it's just you and the other Calamibot left.
Hey,
Next turn, it's gonna it's going to actually step forward and try to like pummel you.
Okay. Um, I think I'm gonna try and not even anything special or refined. I'm gonna just try and turn it into a statue, like freeze up its joints, because there's something much more urgent happening right now.
Okay. Yeah. So it's gonna basically try to smash you. Um, so that is a neutral card. So you're not going to heal. That's also an 8. So that's going to be tough to overcome. I am going to need you to give me an alchemy action.
Alrighty. Alchemy runs on intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
so that'll comes out at a 22.
22. Okay. Go ahead and draw a card back, and then I will need you to give me an agility action to dodge out of the way of this thing trying to pummel you.
Not great. That would be 10.
Okay. Um, so yeah, you managed to like grab it just as like obviously there are people around in the buildings that are like kind of like like what's going on out there? Oh my God, what's happening? Call the police, like kind of thing. And so as you grab it and kind of like turn it into basically just an inert version of itself,
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
its fist starts to come down, and you manage to stop it, like after it's kind of like right as it kind of like hits you, so you don't take the full force of the attack. Basically, once this scene is over, you're going to draw back up to 2 cards instead of the normal 3. So you'll be going into the next scene with 2 cards. And yeah, so like you hear people like calling the police and stuff like that. Like the authorities are going to be here any minute now. So go ahead and draw your 2 cards
Yeah.
back. That'll go away, and that'll go away. All right. And you are now in a situation where you have to choose between going and finding this facelift or going after the good doctor.
At the moment, I think I have to prioritize chasing the doctor down. I don't think I'm as fast as the jetpack, but if I'm lucky, maybe I can intercept it before we get to the lair.
Okay. Compiler watches the trail, the contrail from the jetpack, kind of like arcing up into the night sky. That'll be the final panel of the issue. With a little like will compiler save Dr. Lee? Where is Facelift hiding out? Find out next time. So, so yeah. Thank you very much for playing.
Oh, thank you for running it. That was a delight.
My pleasure. And it'll only get smoother from here once we know the characters and everything like that. So I'm going to draw a card, and that's going to go to the narrator card. That is going to basically be the card that applies to all of the opposition's actions. And that basically whatever the difficulty is normally, so like in general, trying to dodge an attack is an average action. So there's 8 points of difficulty to dodge an attack, plus whatever the intensity of the attack is, plus the narrator card.
Okay.
So higher narrator cards make it even more difficult to avoid, getting hit, or to even more difficult to hit them and things like that. So that's the way that kind of works. There's a couple other important things on the narrator card that I'll call attention to really quickly. One is the aura. So first off, we've got the value, which we just talked about. The aura is also important. Every turn, a new narrator card is going to get revealed, and the aura of that card is going to determine whether or not the heroes or the villains recover from their wounds. If it's a positive aura, like this card is, then the heroes draw a card and add it to their hand, assuming they're not at their max hand size.
Am I supposed to be able to see it?
Yeah, right on. Do you not see the card?
Right here?
Yep, that little plus
Don't.
sign.
There's no card on my screen. That's weird.
Try refreshing your Roll20. Sometimes it happens. It's just behind.
There it is.
Oh,
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, so that
Weird.
that is a positive aura. It's got the white kind of color to it, and it's got the plus sign. Mr. Fantastic is another example here of a positive aura card. Then you've got the Moondragon card, which is a neutral card. It's got that red color to it, and it's got the circle indicating that it's neutral. On a neutral aura draw, neither the heroes nor the villains will heal anything, unless somebody has regeneration or something else that changes it. And then you've got the Iron Man card, which is a negative aura. So it's got that black coloring to it, and it's got the little minus sign. In that case, the villains heal whatever the intensity of that card is. So the villains don't have a hand size to measure their health. They just have a static health pool. So yeah, that is going to be important to the combat as well. The last thing is the event, which is in the upper right corner of every card. That event is something that, as the narrator, if I feel like a particularly appropriate event comes up on the narrator card, I basically have GM Fiat carte blanche to bring that event into the game somehow. So if you guys are fighting on a bridge and people have been throwing around energy blasts and unstable ground comes up, I could say, oh, the bridge collapses, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
As players, you are also welcome to suggest how an event might come into play if you can think of a way that would be beneficial. I'm not obligated to say yes, but generally speaking, if you come up with something cool and novel and you're not trying to game it by having something come up every event, yeah, I'll probably work with you. There's actually a reality warping power in the game that if you take it, you can just choose a card from your hand and be like, I want this event to come into play. And this is how I'm going to make it happen. It's pretty broken, but it can be fun in the right hands.
Yeah.
Anywho, so that's the narrator card, just so everybody knows how that works. So, during combat, what's going to happen is the person with the lowest intellect is going to declare their actions first. That way, people with the higher intellect can decide how they're going to react or what they're going to do in response to that thing. Generally speaking, everything happens simultaneously. Damage isn't really assessed until the end of the round. So even if you hit somebody with the mother of all haymakers, they still get the chance to attack you at the same time. So it could be a double KO or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
But yeah, so this guy's no slouch in the intellect department, but he's not as smart as you. So he wants to. I think I know exactly what he wants to do. Let me check something real quick. All right, well, he doesn't really know who you are or what you're capable of. So he's going to use a skill called Fast Exit, which is an agility skill. And what that does is it lets the person with this skill make an attack and then basically dodge out of striking range in the same action. So you can't counterattack with a melee strike.
Okay.
So basically, what he's trying to do is he's trying to like dart in and like slash you with his claws, and then
Yeah.
like use that kind of momentum to kind of like shoulder you out of the way and keep going towards the door. Like he's basically kind of dashing, like bum rushing you and trying to dash for the door. Now,
Sure.
the drawback to the fast exit skill is that if the enemy's intellect is higher than your agility, you can't dodge whatever attack they throw your way. So this is not going to go well for him because he happens to be like matched up against someone whose intellect is just ridiculous. So even though his agility is quite good, it's not going to be good enough.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
whatever you're going to do to him is automatically going to hit him, which is
All right.
he's not going to feel great about that. However, that doesn't mean that he doesn't get to make the attack against you.
Yes.
So, go ahead and give me. Well, what's your action going to be? What are you declaring as your turn?
Can I, in the same turn, activate my force field and blast him?
So, generally, no. You can use a particular power once in a turn. So,
Okay.
if you decide to turn your force field on as a defensive action, that's what you're using kinetic control for. Your force field will stay up from then on, even if you use the power to blast him. But you can only use a power for one thing in a turn, whether it's offense or defense.
Okay.
But you could, like, if your lightning speed was higher than your agility, you could use lightning speed to dodge and then kinetic control to blast him. You can use different powers, just not the same power.
For sure. Okay. So yeah, I suppose I will. Yeah, I will turn on my force field because I don't want to get hit.
Okay.
And I'll try to trip him as he runs out. I'll just shoot my leg out.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to say that would probably be a brawling action, because brawling is like the skill that goes like dirty fighting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that'll be a strength action. Turning on your force field will be an intellect action. Now I will say he can't dodge you tripping him, so that's probably going to work out in your favor. Go ahead and resolve your force field action first. Your force field action first.
Okay, and I need to play a card for that to activate. Okay.
To see if you get it up in time before he hits you.
Okay. Well, I have a handful of intellect cards. Okay. 11 plus 11 is 22.
All right. So those cards will go over there. Now, actually, you don't redraw until the end of the round. In this case,
I will put that over there.
I will actually. I'm going to take that card, and then I'm going to recall that card. There we go. So that's a 22, which is going to be enough to not get hurt. Let me just reposition that a little bit. There we go. And then go ahead and give me an action for the tripping. So that'll be a strength action. And really the key thing here is, even though he can't dodge it, you still basically want to try to beat whatever his strength is to actually, knock him to the ground, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Either way, it's gonna slow him down. The question is whether or not you can knock him off his feet.
Sure. We'll use the 8 for 12.
Okay. Can you do me a favor? Can you move that card right over here for me?
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's getting a little busy over here.
Yeah, I can move the card up a little bit.
My hand.
I can move the discard pile out of the way as well. Okay, so that was a 12 for that.
Not a strong boy.
Yeah, you kind of kick your foot out, and his claws, basically, slide along your force field. There's, a little, Well, actually, you tell me. What does your force field look like? Is there any visual effect to it? Is it completely invisible?
See, was I right? Yeah, when something hits it, there's a like purpley blue like flash, and
Okay.
while he's using his powers, his eyes also have that same color glow to them.
Okay, gotcha.
So
So yeah, like he seems a little bit like surprised when his claws result in a light show rather than some blood, and you kind of kick your foot out and causes him to stumble a bit, but he manages to like put one hand down to like stop himself from falling over completely. So in the next turn, he's gonna be a bit of a penalty to anything he tries to do, but he's not like completely prone.
yeah,
So those
that's
cards are going to get discarded. You're going to go ahead and draw 2 cards to replace the 2 that you played. Getting good cards. This is going to get discarded as well. So this card is... I mentioned earlier that there were the different suits, right?
Yeah.
Green is strength, red is agility, blue is intellect, purple is willpower. There is a 5th suit, and that's these kind of gray or black cards. These are the Doom cards. When they're played as a narrator card, they don't do anything special. They just get discarded at the end of the turn. If you as a player play one, however, from your hand, or if it gets played off the top of the deck because of a boost, that Doom card goes to me. And then I can use that against you later on. Now, because I've got a physical deck, I'm just going to draw a card from this deck, so you won't necessarily know what it is. Just to keep things a little bit more interesting. So I'll discard this card, but that will give me a card that I can use for the bad guys. Or maybe I'll use it for you if I think the event is particularly appropriate. Who knows. But either way, for now, that's going to get discarded. We're going to draw a new narrator card. Okay. All right. I think on this turn... Coyote is going to try and he's going to try to get through that window regardless of what's happening. So yeah, he's just making a break for it.
Okay.
What about you?
I am gonna blast him.
Okay. Go ahead and give me the action to do that.
Hey.
Now, something I will note is that KJ has the hindrance to
Max.
his kinetic control power of max only,
Yep.
which means he can only blast people at full power, which
Yep.
may be problematic depending. But that's a boost card. That's an intellect card, so you can play another one.
14 plus 11 is 25.
25. Now, you don't have like the energy control power or anything to apply to that. Not that it's really going to matter because he's probably not going to dodge that. So,
Good old blast of kinetic energy.
so this is not something that KJ is necessarily going to know. I mean, maybe he will. You can always make an action to try to determine this if you'd like. I am going to call into play the Reckless Leap event on this narrator card. So he is going to dive for the window. Basically, he's going to like cannonball through it. You hit him with your blast kind of from behind, and the blast is going to carry him out the window across the yard, and you don't see him after that. Did you obliterate him? You don't know. But there is a bit of destruction. There's like an impact point. Although I guess your blast probably would have had something to do with that too. But either way, like, you hit him. You blasted him out of the building. But he is not there when you go to check on, like, when you go to find him.
Okay.
Basically, he was like, hey, this is a little bit of a, I mean, maybe it's a bit on the rough side, but it's what do you call it? It's like an updraft when someone's trying to like take off when they're flying. He uses it to his advantage, and he just lets it propel him. What happened to him after that? You don't know. But you don't really have much time to dwell on it. We're going to call that encounter over. So you go ahead and draw your card back. You don't have much time to dwell on it because the 4 blockade guards that were on the premises, now that there's been a loud, shattering of glass and, the crashing of masonry from the wall in the backyard, have burst in their armor with, like, they weren't carrying guns earlier, but now they are, and you see one of them, like, as he comes in, like this gauntlet thing he's wearing kind of, like, reconfigures itself into, like, a small, like, kind of snub-nosed, futuristic-looking firearm. And they all level their weapons at you, and they say, "Stop! In the name of Blockade Securities, you are under arrest."
I'll squeeze through after him. He's so far ready. That was helpful, getting away from the serpent, so...
For sure. Okay, so that encounter, that fight has ended. At the end of a fight, heroes will redraw up to their maximum number of cards, unless they took a particularly serious wound. You didn't. You pushed yourself a little, but otherwise you were okay. So go ahead and draw your 3rd card back. All right, and the guy kind of brings you into a small antechamber that is popular, that is kind of furnished with objects that look like they're made of this crystal. They're actually, like, seamlessly integrated into the floor, but there's like a couple of lounging couches, and there's, like, a table and things like that. It's there are actually some sections of the wall that have sort of been, like, drawn out in a rectangular shape, and there's like writing on it. It looks like, if you want, you can give me a history action to see if you can recognize any of the language.
Okay, let's see. Indulgence. Yeah, if I do this one, that'll bump me to an 8, and with the history on there. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can go and I'll discard that for you. You can go and draw a card to replace it. You recognize certain elements of Latin, actually, as well as Greek. It's not really all of either one, but there are elements to the language from both of those. And the guy is talking, and then when he kind of realizes that you don't understand what he's saying, but that you're, like, kind of recognizing some of the stuff, he says in Latin. It's not a perfect translation, but it's the general gist. He says, "Do you speak this language, perhaps?"
I'll turn around and say, I do understand that language.
Okay.
I'm not a great speaker, but I do understand it much better than what you said before.
Wonderful, wonderful. I am, you may call me the Chancellor.
Right. I'm Jessa, Chancellor.
Do I want to play that off as like him misunderstanding that you saying your name is Jessa Chancellor? No, I don't think so.
I mean, in Latin, it would translate very differently.
Yeah, exactly. He says, welcome, Jessa. I have many questions. First, what exactly are you wearing? 2, where are you from? 3, how did you get here?
This is everyday clothes. I mean, it's just a flannel made out of cotton,
Flannel.
and it's a warm overshirt.
I see.
And I'm from Portland, Oregon.
Portland. Where is this?
Yeah.
Where is this Oregon you speak of? It is a kingdom far from
Far from
the
Rome?
Mediterranean, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah, but not a kingdom. A democracy, and it's part of and it's the roughly tied for 3rd largest country on the planet.
I see. This Oregon is very large, but it is heartening to know that it is.
Oregon is part of a bigger country. It's a state.
A city
As Sparta was to Greece.
A city-state. I see. Of course. Well, it is heartening to know that the ideals and philosophies of the most enlightened thinkers of my time have persisted.
Your time?
Yes.
Plato died almost, 2,500 years ago?
Well, my calculation was slightly off then. I had estimated approximately 2,200 years, but, well.
Could be. We're not exactly 100% certain on some of the details. I don't know off the top of my head right off, exactly his death date.
Well, I'm sure that I could help fill in some of those gaps if you were so interested.
That'd be great. Yeah, I'm working on a degree in medieval literature, and ancient knowledge is required since all the medievalists loved Greece and Rome.
Rome. Upstarts. But they have the potential to be great.
Had the potential? They did.
Did they?
They did.
Oh.
They
very
conquered
impressive.
most of the continent.
Impressive. It sounds as if they stepped into the shoes that my emperor left when we were defeated.
Who was your emperor? I mean, the none of the previous empires were even remotely close to Rome in size.
No, we were somewhat. We were not large, perhaps, but we were powerful. Our people mastered arcane secrets.
I mean, I can walk through living things, so I guess, yeah, I can walk through walls. I guess magic should be real too. Sure, why not?
I thought maybe I had that my senses had deceived me, and that you simply had evaded Leviathan, but you passed through him.
Yep, walked right through him.
Fascinating.
And Leviathan, as in the guy that ate Jonah. That Yahweh, the God of the Jews, the Hebrews, Israelites.
Yes. Perhaps not the exact same, but, well, I can see how that might inspire such tales. He was known for devouring a great many.
Yeah, okay. Yahweh made him eat him and then made him spit him out.
Perhaps.
Interesting story. Fascinating mythology on that one, but sure.
Well, I come from a place known as Atlantis. It was an island not far from Greece and Rome. And there was a time when we were the dominant power in the known world.
Plato spoke of them sinking into the sea years before Socrates was born.
Well, that is not incorrect. The final emperor of Atlantis, he came to call himself Ultio. His true name is lost even to me, but he commanded forces that were anathema to all that is right in the natural order of the world. And he drew the ire and the wrath of the Amazons.
Well, everything we know about the Amazons definitely says that, yeah, they would... that would definitely be a thing.
Indeed. And their reprisals were swift. And in the ensuing battle, many of the items, the pillars of Atlantis that had been crafted by Emperor Ultio and those before him were destroyed, and the resulting emanations caused the island to plunge into the sea. Killing all Atlanteans, although I suppose some may have been away from the island at the time.
Interesting.
In fact, I would imagine, being as the heart called to you, and the fact that you're here, you must have some Atlantean in your lineage.
Beats the heck out of me. I mean, I know I'm German.
An academic curiosity, but perhaps one we can explore later. For the time being, do you know what this place is?
No. Last thing I know, I got pulled out of a room because this heart was emanating vibrations that I could see but couldn't record on my phone.
It was the heart calling to you then. Interesting. Well, the heart is one of the many relics that the Emperor gathered together and imbued with power. There are 14 of these crystal hearts that were taken from the most powerful, most loyal servants of the Emperor. And they were crystallized through ritual and preparation and alchemy so that the spirits of these servants might be called forth at any time by the Emperor. They are all linked in a way, tethered to him.
Okay, interesting. All I know is this was sent to us to study.
You said
hadn't even had a chance to start recording observations on this thing, and it was, and all of a sudden, here we are.
You said you attend a place of learning.
Yes.
Well, that is heartening to know that there are such institutions. In Greece, the idea of a woman attending such a place would have been laughable, but it was commonplace in Atlantis.
It's common. It's much more commonplace now. Rome and Atlantis, Rome and Greece and such put a damper on that for a long time.
Well, I do suppose there is some logic to that. There were many learned Atlantean women that tutored the Emperor in his pursuits, and perhaps they saw it as a risk best avoided. Regardless, yes. As I mentioned, the hearts are linked to each other. That is how Leviathan is able to travel between them. He's not always around. I actually find him to be quite disruptive to my contemplations. So I do quite enjoy when he is off, terrorizing the residents of the other.
So, how are you stuck here? There's multiple hearts, and you're stuck in this one?
I can travel between them, but I've found that it incurs a large degree of risk. Risk that I'm not quite willing to take. Instead, I've made myself a bit of a comfortable home here. I have no need of food or water in my state as a spirit of the dead.
I still need that.
Oh, that would be inconvenient if you were to remain here for any length of time, then.
Yeah, I didn't. Nothing happened to me that would result in me being here as a dead person. That was very much alive when I got pulled in.
Well, the fact that you are here has clearly caught Leviathan's attention, which means soon it will be brought to the Emperor's attention. And I can assure you that that is not a desirable outcome. So, I believe the first course of action would be to get you back to this Oregon from which you hail.
Yes.
And then, perhaps... Perhaps you might be able to assist me in leaving this place.
I don't know. You're dead. Might be possible.
Well, as you said, you can walk through living matter, and I am a spirit who's been stuck in a crystal heart for several millennia. So, anything is possible. But one thing at a time. First, we get you out so that you can be safe. And then, well, we take the next step as appropriate. But were I to find a way out of here, I would be more than happy to regale you with what I know of Atlantis and the ancient world. And maybe you can show me the nuances of this Portland.
Sure. I can show you some really good beer and weed spots. Yeah. Cannabis is a North American plant.
Yeah. I imagine the way it translates to into Latin is probably something akin to like, opium or like some sort of mind altering substance. He says some of the greatest philosophers did partake of such pastimes to enlighten themselves. So I would be delighted.
Right. Sure.
So, how... You said that the heart began to pulse.
Yes.
Well, you did not touch it.
No, I was close. I was in the same room as it.
When it called to you, did you converse with it? Did you open your mind to it?
Not that I know of. I felt a pressure in my like that almost headache pressure.
Ah, yes.
And then it was in the direction of what turned out to be the shipping crate holding the heart.
Well, I should caution you. It sounds to me as if you reflexively opened your mind to establish a connection when it called. This is the sort of thing that you should be more careful of in the future.
Okay, I'll try. It's all very new to me.
Well, I speak purely from a theoretical, hypothetical? Purely from a hypothetical standpoint. I myself do not know the nuances or the realities here, so take everything that I say with a certain level of skepticism. But in the meantime, so I believe that the most likely way for you to return from whence you came will be at the place that you found yourself when you first came here. That exact spot.
I actually know where that is.
Wonderful.
I marked it with some chalk.
Well, Leviathan will have overcome my little hex soon, or quickly. So it will be likely that he will attempt to apprehend you again.
Did mention the Emperor would be interested in me, so...
Yes, very.
I heard that. I heard that. Something along the lines of that. It was like a cross between Latin and Greek. Couldn't quite catch it all, but I think he said something about Emperor and interested.
Yes, that does make sense. We rarely... Actually, I don't know of a single instance where an outsider has breached one of the hearts, so at the very least, they will be curious on an academic level. But should they discover any more information about you, the Emperor will be even more inclined to capture you. So, let's avoid that, shall we?
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Good.
I'd rather not be stuck in here for any length of time that I can avoid.
Agreed. I assure you, were I not dead already, it would have been a most miserable experience. As it is, I've rather grown slightly fond of the place. Although, he kind of like looks at one of the couches, which is like starting to like sort of like list and like kind of sink back into the crystal. And he kind of goes over and he places a hand on it and, you know, kind of writes it. He says, one of the ways that I've managed to keep my sanity is by consistently restoring the things that I have created to occupy my time. It is a never-ending task, but I welcome the distraction. I've become quite the sculptor, if I may say, in the intervening years.
It is an excellent couch.
Very comfortable. I find that it prevents any soreness or aches in the back. So
that's very important. That's very important.
Which I would have thought, being dead, I would be disabused of, but apparently that's not the case. So, anyways, we must be careful. I believe we should travel... Probably best to take the most direct route. We could try to circumvent Leviathan, but that might just result in us being further away from our goal when he catches up with us, so...
Well, the most direct route would be back through that chamber you found me in.
I will need to remove the barrier that I created, but that is of no concern. Very well, let's set out. He goes and, like, there's sort of like an umbrella stand, but it's got crystal like walking sticks and things like that. He kind of like hems and haws, and then finally picks one,
Okay.
and he kind of shimmies out through the crack in the wall.
I'll follow him through.
Okay. So at this point, I'm going to ask whether you want to get to this supposed escape point by being quiet or by being quick.
Quiet might be better.
Okay. All right. In that case, I'm going to need a... This is going to be an agility action using thievery, which I don't think you have.
I don't have any agility cards, but I can play out... play out this one.
Now, this is where I'll actually bring your attention to another mechanic that you can use when your cards aren't quite what you need. You can always do what's called a Hail Mary. A Hail Mary is you don't play a card in your hand, you just draw the top card of the deck and treat that as if that's the card you played. The drawback is you don't know what you're going to get. The benefit is it might be the suit you need, or it might be a really high card. So it could pay off. It might not. You can only do this once per story, per point of edge that you have. So for you, it's just the once.
Okay. Well, let's try it.
All right.
It's better than the other two that would have been in my hand, so that gives me a 16.
It does, and you didn't have to play a Doom card for it.
No, I didn't. I was saving that one.
So this is where one of the things that I really like about the Marvel Saga system is the events on the card. If we were playing in the Marvel Universe, also the characters are kind of an important aspect, because you can actually the rule book explicitly tells game masters, like, feel free to have this character show up unexpectedly as like a special cameo if the heroes are in need or whatever, which is always kind of fun. That's not going to happen here, but the events are still relevant. Inexplicable disappearance, I think, ties in really well with the fact that you're trying to stay hidden. So yeah, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a. I'm basically gonna treat it as if you had the thievery skill to give you a little extra push towards your goal in response to that event. So that was a total of
16 on that for the cards.
That is actually pretty good. Okay. Yeah, let's see if... All right. Go ahead and discard that card. You manage to move very stealthily. And Chancellor doesn't seem to really make much noise. Like even his walking stick doesn't really click on the crystal, because you'll notice that he's actually kind of like a few inches off the ground. The walking stick seems to be more for just like personal preference than anything. So he doesn't really make any noise at all. However, as you are walking and being quiet, you hear this booming voice. It's got a slightly sibilant element to it. This booming voice comes echoing down the tunnels. It says, "I will find you. I will bring you before my emperor. How long can you evade me?" And I am going to have him use one of his powers of emotion control, specifically fear. I need you to give me a willpower action to resist this, please.
Okay. Well, I can do that, and since that's what we need, I get to drop that, and that's another willpower action.
That is another willpower card, yes. So
I draw another one?
You do.
And that's another willpower card. And there we go. So that is 10, 24 plus my willpower of 8. That's a 32.
Okay. Yeah, I mentioned earlier, like sometimes you get that run of cards and you end up getting a score of like in the 30s. Yeah, that's impressive. You can go ahead and draw your card back. I'm going to hang on to that because there's no sense in playing it now. And yeah, so you are now, like, you kind of like stop for a second and you can kind of feel like this like dread kind of wash over you, but it doesn't even really take hold. It just kind of passes right over you. And Chancellor kind of looks at you as if he's concerned for a second, and then when he sees that you kind of wait for the talking to subside so you can keep going, he kind of gives you like a nod, like very like respect, props. Like that was, that's pretty good. And he says in a very quiet voice, says, There were warriors who had trained their entire lives to face death, who trembled at the sound of his voice.
He's not as scary as says Turfs, so we're good.
He kind of tries to parse that, and rather than continue a conversation that might lead to you being discovered, he kind of just shakes his head and keeps going. Yeah, you guys make it back to the arrow that you drew on the wall without any other incident.
All right. I will. I'm going to think about it. I seem to have phased to have gotten in here, so I'm going to attempt to phase out.
Okay. So, if you want to do that, I will need a phasing action. It's probably going to have to be a pretty good one. Now, you can't push again, because you already did, except you can attempt a willpower action in order to kind of recharge that ability to push yourself, as you basically kind of like harden your resolve, and you kind of like, okay, I can do this, I got this. So you kind of psych yourself up to be able to do the push. If you want to do that. You don't have to.
Yeah. I'm looking at that only hit me at a 19, not quite 20, and I feel like I should hit at least a 20 to get out.
So, actually, let me pull up the document. I should have had this open from the beginning. Gaming, da-da-da-da-da. And then Marvel Saga. And House Rules. And scrolling down past the character creation. Pushing. So this is going to be a challenging willpower action. This is going to be one of the few difficulty scores that you know in advance. Challenging is a 12. Is the difficulty for that?
Challenging is a 12.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I can definitely hit that.
You can. So if you'd like to play your card, go ahead.
Yeah, in fact, I'm actually going to go a step above just to be safe. I'm going to go for a 6. So to make that a 16.
All right, that will succeed. So you are able to push again at this story. So we'll discard that. You can draw your card back to replace the 6, and then you can give me your card play for the phasing.
I'm going to play this, and then I will also play this.
Okay. So, as a general rule, you don't want to use Doom cards to absorb damage, if at all possible. Sometimes in a fight it's unavoidable, but that's how you suffer an injury. So, you're going to want to push with the 4 and play the 9.
Yes, that was the order I did that. Yep.
Perfect.
Push the 4, play the 9.
Excellent. So that gives you a 13 plus your 10
10.
is a 23. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'll discard these, and I'll draw myself another Doom card, and then you can draw back one card to replace that.
Draw back one card.
All right. So, you are focused, like you're kind of like staring at this arrow. You're kind of like trying to convince your powers to not to cooperate, to not sabotage you here. And it takes a few minutes because, I mean, you've kind of gotten the hang of like making your body incorporeal, walking through things and whatnot. I mean, it's not totally refined as a skill for you, but you've got the basics down. This is something else entirely. Like, you're not trying to phase between, like, from one room to the next. You're trying to phase from this.
Can I use the descriptors that, like, the card I played as my push has linked to the past on top of it?
So, generally speaking, I'm going to say kind of. So, generally speaking, when you play a card for an action, really you're just looking at the intensity, at the value in the suit.
Yep.
There is actually a specific power that lets you play a card and be like, hey, I want to use this event, and this is how I think it should work, and that's reality warping.
Yeah.
I generally don't let players have, because it's too chaotic and unpredictable.
The reason I'm asking on this is because that particular one, I would be trying to replicate the feeling I had when I got pulled into this, and that's why I'm asking, because it kind of fits.
Yeah.
Aside from being a Zelda reference, it kind of fits.
That is a Zelda reference. Was that the second game, I think?
That was number 3. Number 3, the first Super Nintendo game.
Gotcha. Okay. But yeah, so that's technically the way the rule works. Is, events don't come into play when you play the card. Couple of exceptions there. One, sometimes the card is particularly appropriate to what it is you're doing. I don't typically put a numerical value on that, but I'll give you a little bit of an edge in those things, like a little bit of an advantage there, because that is an excellent point, and I like the description. The other way that the events can come into play is when they're played as the narrator card during a turn. Sometimes I'll make use of them, sometimes in your benefit, sometimes not, depending on what I think makes for the best story. But if an event comes out on a narrator card, you as the player are allowed to say, hey, I think that should come into play like this. And I'm willing to entertain those kinds of things so long as they're feasible, they fit with the tone and the situation.
Right.
So just FYI going forward. But yes, I think that event does tie into this. Plus, you literally have a link to the past with the Chancellor, and you study history, and I think it's particularly appropriate to some of the themes for this character in this story. So yeah, you do indeed kind of focus, and you kind of recall that sense of not quite panic as your power kind of like preventing you from getting out the door and everything like that, but you do kind of recall that sense of like sort of not having a grasp on reality.
Yeah.
And it kind of like you kind of feel as if like when that kind of really sunk in, the reverberations, like the whatever this heart was sending out, almost seemed to sweep you up and like carry you back into it. And so you kind of do the same, like you phase, you kind of put yourself back in that mindset, and the pulse of the heart, you kind of feel yourself almost like thrust forward, like which would be taking you into this solid wall. But instead, you find yourself like kind of thumping into the door, back in the university.
All right, it worked.
I am gonna go ahead and I am going to play an event on one of my Doom cards that I drew, which is
Oh, no.
Fractured Reality. So, as this happens, as you like step out of the heart and back into more familiar territory, you hear a faint roar behind you. It sounds like really miniaturized. And then there's one more pulse of the heart, and the man that you saw when the serpent transformed suddenly kind of looks very disoriented and kind of like looks around as if he doesn't know what's going on. But he is standing on the opposite side of the table from you.
Amber is actually going to check on everyone else, make sure they're fine and are doing okay, because she's, I mean, I don't want to say she's not rattled, but she's just slightly rattled in that it means that to her that other people are probably more rattled. So she makes sure everyone's okay, make sure Timmy's fine, and oh, are you going to be okay? And all right. And then eventually she'll head back to her little apartment and, like, strip out of her clothes, basically look at her back, because I'm figuring that power bomb was one of those, things where he dove down, flipped her over, and then, like, drug her through the asphalt for about half a block.
Yeah, so there's like
And
this big like trough that's been like gouged into the ground. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's gonna look and she's like, okay, there's no cuts or scrapes or, well, all right, even bruises, but it's still a little sore. So, draw a nice hot bath and.
You might be stiff in the morning.
Huh?
You might be stiff in the morning.
Yeah, which is again for her rare. But
I will say the workout clothes are ruined, so you'll have to replace
absolutely.
those.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, I like these. I've got to get something more sturdy. But even in this world, I'm guessing there's not a version of Athletica that sells superhero grade. Or actually, maybe there is, but she just can't afford it right now. So
yeah, there probably is.
I'm guessing that there's a sort of high-end sporting goods store that says, and our clothes are superhero grade, and they only cost, $1,000 a piece.
Right.
He's like, all right.
Yeah, it's a steep price, but you'll never have to replace these.
Exactly.
They'll never wear out. Okay, so let's see here. There was... no, that's not it.
Anyway, long story short, she takes a nice long bath to ease out her muscles. As she does some stretching, that kind of thing, and just kind of does some self-care.
Yeah, you. So basically, Amber is going to kick back, relax for the rest of the evening.
Yep. Like I say, do some stretching, but otherwise just take it easy, try and recover her strength. And also, like I say, it's really, really rare that she actually feels pain. So it's, that always kind of rattles her a little bit.
And rightfully so, I think. While Amber is kind of your mom calls and she's like, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? How was your day at work?
Oh, great. You didn't see the news, did you?
I haven't had the chance to watch it yet. No.
Okay, that's fine. You might want to skip it tonight. Nothing big happened. It's pretty boring. So yeah. Anyway, how was your day?
She's always a little bit brief when talking about her day at work. She says it was a day, and she kind of just leaves it at that.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but anyway, yeah, no, it was pretty long, boring day at work for me. Nothing exciting at all happened. So,
Good.
yep, no news at all happened today. So,
Boring is safe. So
yes,
that's the way I prefer
absolutely.
it.
Yep.
Okay. She chats with you for a few more minutes, and then she's like, "All right, I gotta go."
Yeah.
And just as she hangs up, there is a knock at your door.
So first thing she does is make sure her glasses are on, and then hugs her bathrobe, ties her bathrobe a little bit tighter around her, and goes to the door, and looks out the peephole.
There is a lady. She looks like she's probably in her 50s. So slightly graying hair. She's wearing a dark kind of like blazer and like pantsuit kind of combo with a white shirt underneath. She's got a cigarette kind of hanging from her mouth, and she
Right.
she kind of looks at like a clipboard in her arm, and then kind of looks up and down the hallway.
I'll open up the door. Hi, can I help you?
She like moves to walk in. She doesn't really like wait for an invite.
I'll get out of the way, kind of confused, and shut the door behind.
She says, "Miss Anderson, correct?"
Yeah. I'm Amber Anderson.
Consulting her clipboard. She goes, "Amber. That's a novel take on a secret identity, but I suppose if it works for you."
Secret identity. Why would I need a secret identity? I just work at a newspaper.
Cut the crap. The name's Deirdre Fitzpatrick. I'm the union representative for Vigilantes Union Local 13. We are looking for members of the team, and since you are so prominent today, I thought you were expressing an interest in joining.
Look, that was clearly someone else. See, I'm wearing glasses. She wasn't wearing glasses, and stuff. But if I were her, I'm sure she just did what needed to be done to protect people and all that. She seemed really
Secret
heroic.
Identities are guaranteed protected by contract. It's in the union bylaws. You don't have anything to worry about there. Even if you're not a member of the union, I am contractually obligated not to reveal secret identities of potential members.
All right, look, I was going to pick a different name, but I was still stunned from being plowed into the ground, and I didn't realize they were asking for my superhero name, so that's why I just said Amber. So I'm sorry.
You don't have to apologize to me. It's your call. It's going to cause headaches for you, not me.
Okay.
Look, I've got a number of other stops I have to make tonight, so I'm going to make this fairly brief. The vote hasn't gone through yet, but it's expected to pass, which means we need to have a team in place before the end of the month. Seeing as you did get plowed into the ground and then got back up and shrugged it off, you seem like a pretty viable candidate. So I'm here to ascertain whether or not you have any interest.
Sure. I mean, I
great. Here's a contract. Right? She like pulls a stack of papers out from like the back of the clipboard that she's got, and she hands it over. She says, "Here's the contract. Feel free to read it over. My contact information is on the card there. You can call me whenever you need."
Okay. Amber's like already just reflexively signing whatever paper has been put in front of her.
Okay. All right. She takes a drag on her cigarette, and then she says, "I will need you to, of course, provide information on your next of kin, as well as emergency contact information. I need a medical history." Like, she runs through like a bunch of stuff. She says,
"Okay."
She says, "Currently, the contract is considered provisional until you pass the screening. We will be in touch to ensure that the next steps are covered."
Yeah, medical screening might be hard, but because I've never actually gone to a doctor except my dad, and he's not technically a medical doctor, but I'm not really sure what kind of science he does, but he is a scientist, so does that count?
No. The union has a medical plan with approved doctors. I'll get you a list, and you'll make an appointment, and you'll get screened by one of them. Don't try to avoid any public appearances in the meantime. Obviously, if an emergency happens, respond to that. That's what we're supposed to be for. But no endorsements. Saw you wearing whatever, like Under Armour, like athletic wear. Endorsements are strictly prohibited under the union bylaws. So just make sure that you get yourself something more generic next time.
Oh, okay. Does the union provide something a little more durable? Because I'm going to go through a lot of athletic wear otherwise.
Provided you pass the screening and you are accepted as a full member of Local 13, yes, you will be offered a stipend for uniforms and other accoutrements.
Great.
Great. You made this very easy. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And she
anything else you need?
She sees herself out.
Okay. Have a nice night. I hope you find this person you were looking for.
She doesn't even bother saying goodbye. She walks down the hall.
All right.
Deirdre is a cranky lady.
Yes, she is. So I think the first thing Amber does is call her mom and dad.
Okay.
And just be like, Mom, Dad, could you sit down for a minute? I think I got a new job. I'm gonna keep the old one just for my secret identity and all that. But they want me to join. Well, wait, can I talk on this? Wait, yeah, of course I can talk on this line. It's your line. Anyway, I'm gonna join the superhero union, the vigilantes union. There's gonna start a new one here in Portland, and someone just came by and had me sign some paperwork, and I'm gonna join it. That's good, right? That's what so I can help people, and they said they're gonna keep my secret identity and all of that. So I don't have to worry about that. I can actually help people now.
Your dad tries a couple of times to like interject while you're kind of like, very excitedly and enthusiastically kind of saying all that. And once you kind of like take a pause for a breath, he says, "Oh, honey, that's," and you hear him whisper like, "Not now. We'll talk about it later." Honey, that's great. That's fantastic. I am so proud of you. This is everything that we kind of talked about, and then you'll get benefits of being in the union, and that's fantastic. And your mother just says, "Congratulations, honey." And you might be oblivious, but you know your mom well enough that she is not happy.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing she's been the one pushing the "don't show your powers" a lot more than even Dad has.
Yeah, it's not so much a don't. So her take on the whole thing has always been, and she says this in the gentlest ways possible, you're not always good under pressure when talking to people. And, basically her take is you might be strong, but that doesn't mean you can't get hurt. Mm-hmm. And if you say the wrong things, you can get hurt in ways that aren't someone punching you really hard.
Right.
She doesn't come out and say it, but I don't know that Amber would have ever figured this out, but your dad definitely has. Your mom is basically saying, you're not always very bright, so keep a lid on this. Let's not go public with anything. Don't do anything like high profile until we've gotten you ready to do so. Like, she's all about like prepping you, getting you
keeping me from getting emotionally.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she wants to come up with a cover story and all this stuff, and you've just always kind of struggled to kind of like remember the details for those things. So yeah.
Right.
She's like,
all right.
You jumped the gun is probably if she were to sit down and talk to you up front about it, that's probably the way she would start. So
Right. Whereas, yeah, and no, Amber does know that her mom isn't happy about this, so she's just trying to, bull rush her way through with positivity, and this is a good thing, and I actually get to help people now, and I know you're worried, but I'm okay. I'm an adult. I'm a big girl now. I can take it, and I even had my first interview, and it went okay, and I only got like 2 words in edgewise, but still, it went fine.
yes,
And
you got your mother says, yeah, you got 2 words in edgewise, and one of them was your name, and you hear your dad like, stop, just go in the other room, go in the other room. He's like, you know what, honey, I'm gonna go talk to your mom. I'm gonna talk her down. You have a good night. We're very proud of you. Congratulations.
Thanks, Dad, and tell her I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have to. I'm sorry, and thank you, but I'm sorry.
I'll let her know. That's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. Have a good night.
Okay, night.
All right, and he'll end the call.
Okay. And yeah, Amber will sort of curl up on the sofa with a mug of hot chocolate and just sort of, go back and forth between being really excited that she got to do some real superhero stuff and being just distraught that she upset her mom. So
her mom will get over it. She's fine.
Yeah, but she never wants to hurt anyone.
Right. Except maybe bad guys. But even then, not really hurt them. Just stop them.
Yeah. She wants to stop them, not hurt them.
All right. I think that is where we'll actually probably end today's issue. No cliffhanger ending, but that's okay because it was sort of like a prelude, prologue, like first appearance type of thing. And there are more adventures to come for Amber. So thank you very much, viewers, for joining us for another issue of Vigilantes Union Local 13.